Joel, thank you so much for being here. First and foremost, how did you find me? How did you find my page? I don't know where I found you.
You found me. Well, I had seen you in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Even many years ago, I saw photos of you. You know, when you were competing in like competition shape. There was a photo of you, I guess, sort of
Hitchhiking, yeah.
mock hitchhiking.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sort of went viral, I suppose.
Yeah, it got me a lot of exposure, that picture,
Yeah.
particularly by Louis Raphael. Huge shout out to Louis. He's a really good photographer.
So I had always heard of you, but it wasn't until you contacted me that I started, watching your stories. Obviously, I followed you and started watching your stories, and I did like what you were about. You weren't promoting any supplementation or anything, and I think that's what drew me in. There was one particular story you posted. What was it? What you were eating after a workout. You said no protein shakes. That's all bullshit. And you were just eating a whole meal. Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, you know why I put all these things out there and I wouldn't even recall that somebody actually is watching it. You know what I mean? And it can make some kind of an impact.
Yeah.
And when I saw your page, I mean, you guys, if you don't know who it is, you will know now. I will leave his page in the bio. But it's like going in a time machine. And when did you start your Instagram?
I got it in 2014 and never used it. And then I might have had maybe somewhere between like 9 and 12 posts by the time you came across it. At the same time, Nick from Nick Strength and Power made a video on me. I had maybe 16 posts, so not many. I wasn't posting very often, but I guess it was enough for someone to recognize maybe what I was trying to do.
What made you take those kind of photos and what should steer you in that direction? Because it's very 70s.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration, and did you put a thought, okay, I'm going to take a film camera and this is what I'm going to do? How did that come across?
Well, it started with wanting to replicate that imagery from the 70s. It wasn't enough that I genuinely, I will genuinely go out of my way to look like the bodybuilders from the 70s, because I actually like the fashion, and the 80s too, the fashion, the hairstyles, the accessories. I like all that. So it wasn't enough to look like that, because I couldn't look like that and it felt wrong to me. I don't take any selfies. It felt wrong to me doing that, taking a selfie, wearing what I was wearing, or in general, taking a selfie of myself. It didn't feel like me. And I did start by taking photos on a digital camera, and that still didn't feel as authentic as it could have been. So that's why I began leaning toward film, because I felt how I could truly replicate that imagery.
Was it about more of a bodybuilding for you, or just in general you enjoyed that era?
Just in general, I enjoy that era. I like the music. I like I said, the fashion, the hairstyles. I got into, movies like Wall Street or American Psycho, those kind of things. The movies that were set in the 80s, sort of Wall Street in the 80s. I like that. I
agree with you.
Yeah, that image.
Yeah.
But I also like bodybuilding, so the idea was to combine the two. And that's why I started.
How did bodybuilding come around?
Oh, from a very young age. Yeah, I always had maybe issues with my image. I was always trying to look a particular way, mostly for girls. So if the girl I was interested in at the time liked, a punk singer, I would then sort of tailor the way I looked toward that to be more appealing to her. But that it never worked. It never worked. So I thought, how is it I want to look? How is it I want to look? And I saw an image in a Men's Health magazine of just an athletic guy. He wasn't super muscular, but I thought maybe that's something achievable, attainable. And I actually ripped that page out of the Men's Health magazine. I put it away and didn't think much about it, and then started doing weights and this sort of thing. And I looked back, maybe it was 2 or 3 years later, I found that torn out piece of paper from the magazine, and I felt like I'd sort of surpassed that physique, and I was shocked, because that's what I was going for all these years, and I sort of forgot about it. And once I saw the progress, like I thought, oh, I'm probably more muscular than this guy. I kept going, and then that's when I got into bodybuilding.
How was, Joel, to be honest, I'm a fan of bodybuilding, and when I saw your body, when you see it in the pictures, it's one thing, you know. It's so much more impressive in person, you know, than on the pictures, to be honest. And I've been around this sport for a very long time, just like you, since childhood. How did you train to begin with? What was your training regimen when you were just starting out? Because you definitely have very thick arms, very thick chest, so that has been something that you've been doing from the start.
Yeah, it was actually, and I wasn't conscious of it. I didn't. Well, I had heard of Arnold, obviously, but I wasn't into him in the bodybuilding regard. I hadn't come across Pumping Iron or his encyclopedia or anything by this stage. When I began training, all I had was a few dumbbells in the home I lived with my dad. He owned them, and I would just do. It was a lot of arm work actually back then, but I still understood there was some comprehension. I don't know, maybe I'd seen it in a magazine, because I remember not having access maybe to the internet, or we didn't have the internet at home, which was a good thing because everyone else by that stage already had it on their phones. You know, I think iPhones were coming out by that stage, and I didn't have that, so I was sort of left to my own devices, magazines, or anything I could sort of find. So it was like workouts of the day, but most often, you know, more often than not, sorry, I was gravitated towards arm training. So I'd pick up the dumbbell, do, you know, as many sets as I could on the one arm until it felt destroyed, and then do the same thing for biceps on the other, then tricep overhead press, just an exercise I saw in the magazine, and I would just do that as frequently as possible. It wasn't, not, you know, I probably didn't train legs very often, that kind of thing. It was just maybe walking lunges or bodyweight squats. But
And when did you start taking it really seriously?
well, it's funny you say that. I don't think I took it really seriously until maybe only a few years ago. That's, in my opinion, kind of a regret. I wish I had started taking it seriously when I started, because as soon as I took it seriously, only a few years ago, me and my best friend back home, we joined a gym which was predominantly a bodybuilding gym, and there was a lot of big guys there. But we went in with the mentality that, you know, everyone's natural, just give everyone the benefit of the doubt unless they tell you, and we'll just train as hard as we can and try and compete on their level. And that's what we did. In the first year, I think I put on something like 10 kilos just training there, just because of the environment and atmosphere. It was different to the commercial gyms we had been training at, where it's just the general population. You know, there wasn't any motivation there.
I understand.
Yeah.
Why do you find so much value in volume training? Because nowadays, you know, people believe in overtraining, and you as a natural, to me, it's more, just even for myself, man, because I try to, actually, I was chasing your physique, you know, the roundness, the symmetry, and, you know, anabolic steroids is just like something that gives that to you way faster.
Right.
You know, how you were able to, you know, build your body the way it is now with volume training, with overtraining, because a lot of people argue that you can overtrain easily if you go with high volume while being natural. How do you deal with all those things?
So how do I reiterate?
How do you put your training split, or what made you train the way you train now? Because you definitely look absolutely amazing. So there has to be probably some certain experience that went in place, especially being natural.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of people look at what I do now, which is training twice a day, every day, and I can't remember the last time I had a rest day. It's a very, very rare occasion for me to have a rest. So the misconception is you can't train like that and be natural. You must be taking something because your recovery, you know, blah, 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 blah. They just think what I'm doing is impossible. But it's taken me 10 years to get here. So when I started, it was one muscle group.
A week.
A week, and just training one session per day, maybe just 5 days, and I had the weekends off. And then over time, say I trained chest on Monday, it was probably by, you know, I noticed on Friday, well, it's recovered, why shouldn't I train it again? And this was before I knew about training splits. You know, I just felt that I could train it again, and I wanted to, so I did. And then over time it became 4 days, and then 3 days. And I actually took it, I tried to do what Arnold did, and do everything 3 times a week in a 2-day split, but that was
Too much.
Yeah, I probably lasted 2 months before I felt like, my body was, I was atrophying. I didn't feel like I was gaining muscle. So 3 days for me is a sort of that sweet spot. Everything's recovered within 3 days. I can train twice a day because I want to train that often. I think it's, if you genuinely love it, you want to keep doing it. Because there's so many guys at the gym that I work at that compete and they train most days, but they come in sluggish and down, and they don't want to be there, and they complain about competing. And even if they suggest teeing up a session with me, I say, okay, well, let's do shoulders, and go, oh, but I did chest yesterday, so my shoulders were. I'm like, well, that's a loser's mentality.
Joel, I'm gonna try to get as much as I can from you because I know people are so hungry. You come across people like you very rarely. You're probably one of the very few people that is natural and is so impressive. Another guy is Pete Hartwig. How your diet changed over the years? How did you start eating? Obviously, really, a lot of beginners would like to know that. And what it is now.
When I started, it was I was definitely influenced by, well, not when I very first started, but in the first couple of years of training, I was definitely influenced by social media and supplementation. I thought there was some part of me back then that thought this is the answer. I looked up to guys like Steve Cook or well, he was probably the number one guy I was looking at the time when I first got into training. And there was something appealing about the sort of the order of events that took place even before the workout. You got to have your pre-workout, and then you prepare your aminos and blah, blah, blah. I really believed this was the answer, and I did all those things. And I kept the training up and that kind of thing. But over time, as I slowly sort of took that stuff out, mostly for financial reasons, I realized it's probably just whole food. I was sort of giving into this gimmick the entire time. So when I started, it was very supplementation heavy, and I don't think my diet was very good. And then as I got older and tried and tested things for myself, which is not what a lot of people do. They don't give it time. They don't try things for themselves. They don't learn their body. So as I did that, that's when I sort of discovered none of what I was doing was necessary. It's just, intensify the training and eat well. So it's been a very slow progression. Probably the last 2 or 3 years have I really, ate well.
I'll ask you a question that's going to be a little bit off topic, but I know I can speak to you about that because I guess when people start speaking against supplements, they kind of speak against industry because the whole industry evolves around selling supplements.
Yeah.
And I know you're not afraid to speak out because don't you think that the whole supplementation and the way Steve Cook was putting it out, it was just simply to move product? It wasn't really to add value to gaining muscle, because I fell into that trap too. I would go and buy boxes of different stuff, and test boosters and fat burners, all kinds of like pre-workouts that would really fuck up my digestion, protein powders that would bloat me and I wouldn't be able to eat, and I couldn't understand why they're pushing it. Is it just the only way to make money? I guess there is some kind of supplements that probably add some kind of value, like fish oil and multivitamins, even though people say multivitamins are no good, but other things. Do you think this is because of just a money-making machine?
I mean, obviously, like every company, you want to succeed and you want to make money, and I'm sure there is some very small, truth to the idea that these supplements can work or can help. But if they do, it is a 0.01% difference, if that. But my opinion is that they don't do anything, because I did take them. Like I said, I learned my body, and I tried and tested these things myself, and I took every supplement under the sun for years. And then as soon as I stopped cold turkey and I stopped taking it, everything improved. Everything. My stomach felt better. My digestive system, felt sort of back to normal, and it was all in order.
There's no bloat.
No bloat. Yeah, I was very bloated.
Better appetite. 100%.
I would feel sick. consuming a protein shake. But I didn't know it was the protein shake. So it was just one thing at a time I was cutting out of the diet. And now it's to the point where I will not have any supplements, just because the worst part about it is that you truly don't know what you're getting. Even if it's FDA approved, you don't know. And if it's not, it could be flavored talcum powder for all you know. You know,
I agree.
it could be anything. But people don't care. They don't care about that. It's what they read on the label. To them, that's enough. And if it fits their macros, then they'll consume
Especially if the
it.
pretty guy is advertising it and with his big smile,
Yeah.
and nice muscles that are really on steroids. This is really hard for me, bro. Like when people are on roids and they're like pushing supplements and they're promising people that this is what it is. I don't relate to that. What is, like, fuck that. I don't want to talk about it. I want to get something really useful from you. Protein. What is your major source of protein and where it comes from? And how much of it do you eat usually a day?
I don't know how much protein I eat in terms of grams. I don't count anything, but I do know I probably get a lot because I have a lot of eggs and I have a fair bit of red meat, chicken, but it's not, I don't think it's stereotypical in any way. I don't cut any fat off anything. If it's a chicken, it's usually a roast chicken. I'll eat the skin and everything as well. Fish, I eat a lot of fish, a lot of different sources. I don't have any dairy though. I have a big problem with dairy just because of it's like any industry, it's gone downhill, but dairy in particular, it's flooded with, a cocktail of chemicals and permeate.
Yeah, it's been processed and it's not even real dairy when you get it in your hands. And
No.
it bloats you, it pulls a lot of water. As soon as I cut out dairy, I saw my body get a lot leaner.
Yes.
And digestion got a lot
Yeah.
better. I agree with you. How many meals do they usually eat?
5 or 6. Usually 5. 5 will be enough usually. But if I train twice and the sessions were very intense, or if I did legs in the morning and back in the evening, they're usually...
You combine things like that, legs and back?
In the one day, yeah. Yeah, not in the one session. But in the
I
one day,
understand.
yeah.
By one day, usually people would train back and biceps in one day, or shoulders and triceps or something like that.
Yeah.
Because usually people say like, "Oh man, it's gonna be too much
Too
to
much.
train a back and legs."
Yeah.
Right, you're gonna see how many people are gonna run to the gym now and train twice a day. They're gonna be training back and leg because Joel said that. But you have to really tell them that you actually grew into it.
Yeah, it's taken 10 years. It's not... You can't... I don't think even within a year or 2 years of training could you do that. It's definitely something you have to work toward. Because even if I took a week or two off training, completely off training, and then went straight back into that, I would be way too sore. Way too sore. I'd train chest and it would probably be recovered within the 4th or 5th day. There's no way I could hit it again on the 3rd day.
Joel, what made you stick to bodybuilding throughout this 10 years, and how your vision of it and yourself has changed throughout this 10 years?
I think the vision has always been very clear, and it's not something I verbalize a lot, but once I got into bodybuilding and I learnt of Arnold's story, through Arnold I learnt of Reg Park's story or Steve Reeves' story, and it was really just an emulation of these stories. That's what Arnold did, and he admits to that. He had the blueprint right there. He just had to copy it, essentially.
Execute it.
Yeah, that's right. And people think that it's a overnight success, but they don't, and it sounds cliche rather, that, they don't see the hard work that goes into it. They only see the reward or the success at the end of it. But it is true. I thought, once you read a little bit about it, it didn't take Arnold, a year. He spent all these years in the gym being completely, well, not completely unnoticed, but he wasn't anything in the US by this time. Spent all this time in the gym, and because he kept to his vision, and it was just perseverance and self-belief that truly got him to where he wanted to be. And I felt as though I could do the same thing. There was still doubts in my mind, but it wasn't until I saw a video that Dave Palumbo, is that his last name? Dave Palumbo, put out about classic physique when the federation introduced it. He made a video on it and liked the idea, and he spoke about you know, Reg Park and Arnold, and that since Arnold, no one has done what they did, which was get into movies. You know, a lot of other bodybuilders are trying, but it's either they have no personality or they're just, it's too much now. It's too exaggerated. There was a place for guys like Reg Park and Arnold, because although they were big and almost freakish in their time, there was still a place for them. Now it's almost comical now. So it's getting harder to fit those guys in. Even if, say, they were good actors, it would be difficult. And what he said, and what Dave Palumbo said in the video, was that he believes the next guy to sort of emulate that success or get into movies would be someone from classic physique. So it was like a switch. I thought, that will be me. It's not that could be, it was that it will be me. And so that day, the motivation in the gym was tenfold. You know, I had to commit to this 100%. It didn't matter. You know, my mum was yelling at me, get out of the sun, stop laying in the sun, you know, you're wasting your time. Or
she didn't know what the fuck
She just
you were
didn't
doing.
know. She obviously couldn't read my mind, but I kept saying to her, just be patient, be patient. And I said, it would take me years. It might take me 10 years, but just be patient. Same thing with my girlfriend. Just be patient, be patient. You know, you don't need to train twice a day. You don't need to. I just feel like, you know, I had to, and I have to keep doing that, because it's like the image of the two guys digging for gold. They're both a millimeter off it, and one guy perseveres. You know, the other gets so close, but it's so easy to pack up shop. And
Joel,
yeah,
if you at least quarter serious, I'll help you all the way, dude. A quarter serious.
I'm very serious.
A quarter, bro. Because it is going to be a very long and tough road.
Yeah.
But it's great to come across a human like you, because I'm also very driven and I'm very ambitious and I know what I want, you know, and it's great for me to connect with you and discover you for myself, you know, and share you with the world. And I mean it with all sincerity, man. I love the sport, but more so I love the drive, you know, and there is something special about you. Otherwise, you won't be sitting here, man. I really, really appreciate you coming here and giving me your time. And I think right now, if you are serious about this, then this is your story been written. You know, you meeting me and coming to California and going through this thing. And this is most likely the beginning, if you decide this to be. You know, like, there might be your time. And I'm really hoping that you're going to keep this vision throughout your journey, man. You know, you're going to step on the gas and you won't let it go, you know, because that's what it takes in Hollywood. Tell me, what's the vision, entire vision behind it? Let's see, 5 years from now and then 10 years from now.
It's not something I've verbalized. I want to keep pursuing bodybuilding, and I want to continue competing in your competition. That was one of the best experiences in bodybuilding I've ever had. So I want to continue that, and I want to support it and help it grow, because it means something to me. I really like that competition and what you've done.
I appreciate you. It will be bigger now.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
You will be bigger now. We'll make it, man.
Yeah.
We'll make it. Because that's the question I wanted to ask you before you go back to this mastermind thing, master plan. About competing with classic physique. Obviously, if you go into classic physique now, you'll be like just, you know, a guy with no tan. That's how much you're going to stand out. You're going to come out pale, let's say.
Yeah.
And everybody's, you know, that's how you're going to stand out on stage. What do you think about that? What do you make of it?
It's already happened. I've already competed in classic physique. I competed at the Arnold Classic, competed in classic physique, and I don't think anyone even looked at me, at least not any of the judges. But I didn't care about that. I wanted to, and I didn't get the fake tan. I didn't do anything. And but it wasn't about, for me anyway, it wasn't about winning. I just thought, on the off chance they do look at me and see what I am trying to do, how do I say it?
To display.
Yeah, that's right. I was hoping maybe someone would appreciate the image I was trying to bring back to the sport, but it wasn't appreciated. The guys they rewarded were stereotypical, in my opinion.
Yeah. And
it's nothing against them. It's that they are tailoring their physiques toward what the judges want. For them, it's not, bringing bringing what they
Authentic,
believe.
an authentic
Not
look.
bringing what they believe
Individual
the
look.
judges should see. It's what do the judges expect of me? What should I bring for them? You know, not themselves. So I wanted to represent bodybuilding.
And you did it fucking great, man. When you came, as I said, when I saw you for the first time, you were a little strange to me. I didn't know what to think. You know what I mean? Because you were wearing glasses and you wearing like you look like you just came out of 70s. You know what I mean? Because you're usually used to seeing people, you know, normal people you see on the street, or like typical meatheads or typical, you know, guys that are into bodybuilding. You know, you have a very, like, you could, just like you said, you're a guy that stands out on stage. You're also the guy that stands out pretty much everywhere. You know, so, and then I got to meet you and I got to talk to you and see how much you're impressive in person. And there are some shots of you that, dude, like, this is no homo, man. There are some shots of you, and I think that this is fucking ideal when you're, like, there's one shot of you in Stars Gym, you look straight like Arnold. And, you know, as much people, like, maybe address it to Arnold's effect, you know, your look, I think this is just the structure of your body is like that, you know? And that structure of just when it's full and it's dry, it looks incredible. And I wouldn't want to take drugs ever in my life because of you, because I know that I can chase that. And it's going to take me maybe a different approach, maybe more time. And especially for the kids that are listening to us right now, dude, I am so fucking happy that you came around, because it will keep so many people away from bad habits, from health issues, you know, from, they don't understand that besides, whenever steroids, it's not just physical, it's fucking mental. You get into arguments with girlfriends, you break up, you can't fucking network normally because your ego is so boosted. They don't understand those type of side effects, you know, and having you enforce it and show probably one of the most incredible bodies that I've ever seen. And I know you're not at your best yet. You're far from your potential. I think in 3-4 years, man, it's going to be incredible physique, especially when you're taking it so much more seriously now.
Yes.
You know, and having so much more motivation and so many more people looking up to you, it will let up so much more fire in you. Joe, I'm really looking forward to this journey, man. And I really hope, dude, this is off the cameras. They're fucking serious, man.
Thank you.
You know, it will mean a lot to me to watch you grow. And not for my personal benefit, absolutely not. I mean it sincerely. I love your look, and I love what you're about.
Thank you.
You know, I just hope you'll have the work ethic to back this up, you know, not just in the gym, outside the gym, because that's what made Arnold great. You know, and I will help you all the way, man.
Thank you.
That's from heart, not for nothing, just to see you grow. This is an incredible time for me. You know, it's and when I saw you at the show, and people will see they will see the show, and I kind of did my own little thing there. You can't help but look at you. You just can't help. It's just like having Arnold out there, you know? And there's all other guys. And just like you said, we were expecting completely different outcome of our show. But it happened what's happening in the mainstream fitness, you know? And I think this is the look we're going to set for. And this is the standard for me. You know, when you walked out, and I don't mean to make your big head big right now, but I'm just recognizing reality, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And I've seen a lot of guys, bro. I've seen a lot of guys, and I gotta give credit when credit is due. There are some really good physiques out there. There really are, you know? But knowing that your natural changes completely everything. Entirely, you know? And the way it looks, it's different. It doesn't look artificial. Because most of the guys, including Mr. Olympia, and it looks very artificial. It looks unattainable without anabolics. When you look at your body, it's healthy, you know, and that's what I want to promote. I feel like I just sounded like Joel Weider. It's healthy.
Yeah.
Joel, anything you want to say? Because we were about to go watch Once Upon a Time Hollywood, and this is the movie that really fits him very well. I mean, like, he will probably walk in, they will think like that he's one of the characters from the movie. I'm serious, bro. Like, they really look like this. We'll do more of this podcast, and I don't want to give people entirely everything. Tell me what we want to say, and what would be a message to the audience in the end.
I do want to touch very briefly on the natural thing, because I haven't claimed it publicly, but it's been discussed, between us, and now I've had obviously direct messages from people. I've had messages from people saying, "Why are you letting Artemus claim your natural status when clearly you're not?"
Oh my God.
Which is, it does, like, as much as I try not to let that stuff get to me, that grinds my gears because I'm not letting anyone speak for me, and it's discussions I've had with you, or only with a few people. I never publicized it. I never said anything out loud because my opinion is if you have a good physique, you have a good physique, and I don't really care how you obtained it. That's whatever. If you choose to do X, Y, and Z, that's your choice. It was for me initially a personal thing because I had never smoked. I don't drink. I'd never touched any drug, so I wasn't about to take steroids. That was, to me, it's considered a drug. I'm not going to take it.
I know for a fact if you never smoked weed or you never tried ecstasy, you will not take a pin.
No, there's no way. And when I began working at the gym I work at, and everyone's very open there, when I began having conversations with guys about it, and I would ask, like, what is it you have to do and how often is it? I was trying to learn about it. I still don't know anything about it, but they would tell me, this one kid was injecting into his thigh. He said, "Oh, it was extremely painful," and then it got stuck, and my muscle was spasming, and I thought, I would pass out. There's no way I could go through that on a weekly or weekly basis.
Twice a week.
Right. I couldn't do that. I couldn't put myself through that, and that's how it began. It was a personal choice, but it was the people that would come up to me in the gym and compliment my physique, but then ask. They had to ask, "Oh, do you take anything?" And when I say no, they were like, "Oh, okay, well," then say this was 5 or 6 years ago. I wasn't nearly as big then as I am now. I was just a skinny kid. They would say, "Oh, well, it's good for what you've done, but yeah, you've probably reached your natural limit." That kind of conversation that I seem to be having, I'm glad I had those conversations because that was the drive I needed. They were just fueling the flame. It was more power to me. They were saying, you can't go any further naturally. You're going to have to take something. So I would intentionally train harder, more consistently, more frequently, eat more, whatever I had to do to get bigger to prove them wrong. And then when I joined the gym I'm at now, and me and my best mate met this bodybuilder there, and we were telling him of our plan to gain. I said, I want to gain 10 kilos in this year of training. I want to get to 95 kilos. I think maybe it was 85. And he said, there's no way you're going to do that unless you take steroids. I turned to Brock immediately after we had this conversation with him. I said, let's get to work like now. It was like a switch. I said, let's get to work now.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And every session, that entire year, every session. And we took, this is the first time I really counted anything, but it was more so just measurements and weight and, body fat percentages and stuff. We were measuring everything that year and doing everything we could to make sure that we were progressing. Like even I would take an arm measurement and go, okay, in 3 months I want to increase it by, 0.2 inches or this kind of thing. And we were hitting every mark that we set ourselves because I honestly think it was just all mental, It was like studies they do on steroids. They give one group of people a placebo, the other group they give the actual drug, and most often or more often than not, there's no difference in say muscle growth or anything. It's just what you think is achievable. So that for the people that say you can't look like this naturally, well, I think it's really funny because there's guys a lot bigger than me that I know personally that don't take steroids.
I follow one of the guys. I think his name is Sean Physique on Instagram. The guy's natural. Dude, he's thicker than you twice.
Yeah, this guy's way bigger.
Super grimy, dry dude. Full muscle bellies. You could tell that guy's a fucking just genetic beast.
Yeah.
And as much people want to undress and say, hey, man, this is impossible. That's kind of funny, man, because I can see that your physique is natural. That's why I say it. Like your calves.
don't
He has the same holes in his physique like Arnold did. I will, just like Joe Weider, I'll buy him implants. Joel, man, thank you so much for coming to this thing and explaining your point of view to the people about the natural thing. I didn't know it was such a cliche or like it was such a thing, because I never I never kept it secret because I'm a very genuine guy. And I don't lie, I can go, as I said, I can like to girls. but I don't lie to you know, to people to take advantage of them, or you know. And with being natural, I've been open about it, so I never thought it would be a big deal for someone, you know, if I'm gonna say that you're natural or you're not. You know what I mean? I didn't know it was gonna be a big deal for other people. But Joe, let's go watch a movie, man.
It has to be like this.
Huh?